saying, "I see you quiver with anticipation."
Anticipation. Oh Lord.
Tell me when I can bring it up, Ryan.
All right, looks like we're up.
So I
Go
start
ahead.
singing, "I'm just a sweet transvestite," do I?
Oh gosh.
It's being streamed, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's fine.
but it's part of the movie that everyone loves.
What? I'm just a sweet transvestite.
I mean, I guess so, yeah.
It's classic. It really is classic. That's the only way of describing it. It's just so.
Okay, we are watching now, guys, but we are already up. So, hey, Ryan, how am I supposed to see my everybody's hearing me say this. Are we on Hit Live?
We're live.
There we go. This is gonna work. Bingo, we're on. So it's 7:00. You guys ready?
Don't know if
Because
they
we got
can hear
two
me,
people
but
out.
they can hear you, so you're good.
Okay. All right. Oh, we got 3 watching. So I can hear myself
Audio's
somewhere.
great, so you're fine.
All right. Let me just make sure I can't hear myself.
Even-
Oh, there we go.
Well, that's how you
Had
do
to
it.
turn
You
off.
turn the
That's
thing
how I
down.
do it. Duh. Okay. Hey, guys, we got 3 folks out there, but we're going to get going. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to On the Air with Indian River Hauntings. We are back. We're starting up again. Thank you for your patience and understanding. It's been a really lousy time between COVID and illnesses and all kinds of things, but we're back. Me and Chris and Ryan, say hi, guys. You might be on camera. It's okay. People can. I can't see on my other thing here, so I guess they can maybe hear you.
Let's turn that off. No. They don't got to see that.
Oh God.
All right.
He's
Well,
gone.
anyway,
He's gone. He's gone.
Folks, welcome back to On the Air with Indian River Hauntings. It's been way too long, and I've been promising you a video that we did and more information on a visit me and the team made up to Rock, West Virginia, the Shawnee Lake Abandoned and Haunted Amusement Park. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Going to talk to you a little bit about the new format we're going to try and do. Some of you may have already seen it, but we put up an edited version of our video up at Shawnee Lake. Why edited? Because it was like hours long. And Tom Randazzo, I don't know if Tom's listening just yet, but Tom actually is our video guy for the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. Now, he filmed it, most of it. I filmed some of it. My son Evan filmed some of it, but he edited it down so that it was watchable. So that video is currently on my channel. And what we're going to do is when we do a show there, and we've done an investigation prior to it, we're going to put the video up prior for maybe a day or so before, so folks can take a look at it. Because Chris and I, you'll agree with me, Chris, we were kind of figuring out a good way to share the video. So we thought we would get the video out to everybody, let you look at it, and then we would rehash it on the show, and maybe you've got some questions and stuff on it. And that's the route we're going to take. So really would be interested in your view on how we do this. If you haven't seen the video for Shawnee Lake, take some time after the show and watch it, and some of the discussion will make sense. Those of you that have watched it and you've got questions or comments, jump in. I see a number of my team is on there. I see Spanky is back. There's Jill. There's M18's back. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Your Honor, Commanding Judge Dredd has returned.
Paul's
good
on.
to see
I'm glad
everybody.
about that.
Hey guys, Paul, Dave, everybody, good to see you. But we want to also there's Ike. The night is made. Ike is back. So good to see you, old friend. How's everybody doing in your house out there in New Mexico, Ike, at 8 IDK Paranormal? So anyway, that's the format, guys. It's going to change and be flexible a little bit here and there. We're going to probably come on the air every couple of weeks. But just before we do, keep an eye out for our short video that's going to highlight the investigation, and then we're going to talk about it on the show.
And
now,
don't forget, we have half a dozen already done.
Yes,
so
yes.
We've got a store of things already there. So.
Yeah, we've had some really, since COVID has died down here in Florida, we've been able to get out. We've done some really cool investigations. We've got a terrific new format. We didn't use it in Shawnee Lake, but if I can mention this, Chris, do you mind?
It was impossible there, wasn't it?
Yeah, we could. Well, we didn't have any. Hey, Deborah's back. Deborah Goldberg's back. Good to see you, Deb. Anyway, we've got a format now where when we have Wi-Fi, Chris Skypes into our investigations, and he walks through, does a look at the place, gives us some ideas. We don't tell him where we're going. We don't tell him the name of the building. We don't tell him any of the history. He's going in cold.
The only thing I actually know is it's in Florida.
Well, yeah, that may change.
Don't even tell me if it's not in Florida.
Oh, I won't tell you it's Florida. But anyway, we walked Chris through, and then I'll stay on with him, myself, or either Spanky or Sherry, two members of my team, two members of the executive part of the team. We'll jump on. Hey, Sherry, and she's on too. Good to see you.
Oh, hey, Sherry.
They'll jump on and listen on the headphones, and Chris will give us what he's seeing, but we don't tell any member of the team. No. And as you're going to see in some of our future shows, oh my God! And I didn't. I be honest with you, it took me years, and I didn't believe it years ago that somebody could do this via phone line, Skype, or whatever. But in some of the upcoming investigations, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be absolutely amazed at some of the things Chris saw that my team experienced, and they didn't know, and neither side knew about it. It really terrific,
especially when the team doesn't know until after the investigation.
Oh, exactly.
That's the important thing. So nobody can come back and say, "Oh, you knew about this," and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
So anyway, that's going to be kind of the format. We hope you're going to enjoy this. I think you're going to like some of the stuff that we're going to be bringing to you, but some things haven't changed. And the first thing is, of course, some shout outs, and then we go to our beer challenge. First, folks, I want to mention is in Louisiana, an organization called Ghost Gear. Rob Walzak he's a mechanical engineer by trade. And he is probably one of the most intuitive inventors I've seen out there for the paranormal. He has got some terrific ideas. He's got a vision that I totally agree with about collection of evidence. He's created this new little thing called the REM puck. And it's I'm going to give you his website in a second, but check it out. It's going to be out, I think, in May. But it's got some really cool features on it that I think are going to help improve the use of REM pods, that type of piece of equipment. His website is www.ghostgear.com. Rob Walzak, I think he's one of the up and coming, and he's been doing it for a while. I don't want to make him sound like it's new, but he's definitely going to be the future of paranormal equipment invention. I'm convinced of it. The guy's terrific. So go visit Ghost Gear and my friend Rob Walzak.
After you finish this, put that into the description down below. So
hey Ryan, you there?
I am. What's up?
You are there. Okay, I'm gonna give you some. We're gonna put that. Thanks. See, I'm so lame when it comes to this stuff. I'm gonna have the websites, the links for you at the bottom of this, and Ryan, I'll give them to you. www.ghostgear.com. And I can't go on without talking about our good friends Sherry and Nikki, who's part of my team, but also own Doodlebug Dowsing. These folks build some of the finest dowsing rods, and we use them exclusively on our team for any work that we do with dowsing rods. There are many venues throughout the country that use Doodlebug Dowsing's rods, and you can too if you just contact them at www.doodlebugdowsing.com. Terrific price, terrific product, and it will help your paranormal investigations. Like Chris, you've become a believer.
I was sort of waiting for you to finish before I jumped in and saying, as you were with mediums, was how I was with all sorts of gizmos, gadgets, and dowsing rods, twigs, and God knows what. I've seen some remarkable things on the investigations with these rods. So yeah, I'm getting convinced. Yeah. There's too much in it to I like.
Yeah,
I like.
See, it's all about learning, folks. It's all about growing what we're doing and learning new things. Can't go any further without talking about my good friend and paranormal investigator supreme, Mr. Ike Enzi at IDK Paranormal out there in New Mexico. Huh?
Who's he then?
Oh yeah, he's just some guy.
Love you to bits, Ike. Love you to bits.
Who?
Ike does some great work out in New Mexico. He has a great show, IDK Paranormal, on YouTube. I highly recommend you go check it out. He's a former cop like me, retired cop like me, and just does a great job. So Ike, and he's with us tonight, so good to see you. But check out his site, and his show is really intuitive. He gets on the show with his daughter, Christine, who's an MP serving our country. Thank you for your service, Chris. Just a great show, IDK Paranormal. Paradolia Brewery in Sebastian. We'll be talking more about that.
Look
in
at the
just a
size
moment.
of that one.
Look at the
Good
size of
Lord.
that. We'll talk about Paradolia. But our friends there, a very haunted brewery in Sebastian, Florida. We've investigated it several times, and
We've
we'll be
been
going
there.
back
That
there
was a
again.
good one.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that Chris joined us on. Driftwood Inn, where Waldo Sexton began to grow the city of Vero Beach. So our friends at Driftwood Inn want to say hi to Zach and Joe, my two good friends that work the front desk. I also want to say hi to Chad Talley. He's the lead investigator and boss of Space Coast Paranormal, just north of me. And I want to give a shout out to his daughter, who has a really cool little Facebook website, Cora's Corner. So I want to say hi to Cora and her very cool show that she puts on. But Chad Talley, Space Coast Paranormal, great guy, great group, love working with them. But now it's time for this.
Oh my God.
The beer challenge.
Look at
These
that.
are from my this is from my friends at Paradolia Brewing. Hi Pete. Hope you're watching. And this is Double Dolia Belgian. It's a 7.5 alcohol by volume. And yes, it's 32 ounces. And the gang there gets all charged up because you're supposed to open this and drink it in a cup. But I don't. I'm going to do it right here.
Heathen.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
Heathen.
I am a
bet you
heathen.
it's super cold too.
It's very cold.
Disgusting.
Oh, this is very good.
So wrong.
You know, it's not wrong. It's just the way I'm doing it. 7.5 ABV. And yet it's very, very smooth, very, very light. It's very tasteful.
That sounds dangerous.
No, it is. And by the time I finish this tonight, I might be dangerous.
You'll be falling off bridges again, won't you?
Well, not going there, Mr. Huff. We're not going there.
No, we're going to drink that instead. Yeah.
No, we're not.
Much nicer.
And Chris has got Skull Splitter. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
8.5% of sheer bliss. That's the only way to describe it. And when I finish with that one, we've got that one, which is Innocent Guns, which is 7.5% of Scottish beer, which is after brewed in bourbon barrels. And it's absolutely beautiful. So I'm not sure who's going to get squiffy tonight, Larry or me. So
the Judge and Tank Destroyer, I like using their handles on here. Let's see. M18 says that's one huge beer. Yes, it is. It's 32 ounces total. So I might be falling off this chair when I'm done. And His Honor Judge Dredge says, let's see, that's an old aircraft's drop tank. Yes, just think of the Spitfire, the beer run on the Spitfires. Okay?
I'm not going to drop that on Germans, I tell you. No, I'm not going to waste it. No.
So excellent beer. I'll be sipping on that all night, and hopefully I'll be talking at the end of the show still. So let's get in. Let's get into the show tonight. Let's talk a little bit about this unusual place. It was Ike's sister actually that turned me on to Lake Shawnee. She had heard about it. Sylvia Whitcomb had turned me on to the place, told me about it, and I called up there, spoke to the owner, Chris White, and his family owns the property, and we made arrangements. And I took the whole team up there. Now, Chris couldn't join us on that one totally live because there was no way to get the Skype to work up there, but we did actually talk on the phone briefly. We got there on a Saturday noonish. Met Chris, got a little bit of a history of the place, and what Lake Shawnee is. Some of you already may know it. It was property owned by the Shawnee Indians back in ancient times. In the 1700s, it was owned by a family called the Clays. They, for some reason, got into a dispute with some of the local Indians, Native Americans, and some rogue Native Americans kidnapped one of his sons and killed them, and they retaliated, and it was just a horrible mess. The property stayed between the families for a number of years, but then finally a gentleman named C.T. Swindow bought it in the 1920s and turned the area into an amusement park. And it was Lake Shawnee was the lake there. They built a second pond, and it stayed an amusement park until 1966. Between 26 and 1966, there were several deaths there. you'll hear some of them on the video that I'm really hoping you guys will take a look at. One young man was died drowning in the pond. Another young girl was on the mechanical swing that was going around, and a delivery truck backed up into the swing and killed her. And there were several other deaths that were there. The park closed in '66. When the family that currently owns it wanted to rebuild it, because Chris actually worked there as a kid. They tried to rebuild it in the 80s, and as they tried to re-excavate it, they started to uncover graves. And Marshall University has actually come to this site and excavating graves of Native Americans, and they think as many as 3,000 Native Americans may be buried in that same spot where they had an amusement park. Folks, I don't have to tell you what kind of this coming together will cause all kinds of issues. So that's a little bit about the park. We got there. It was in November, early November. I think it was the first Saturday in November we got
Cold.
there. It was. Oh, here's the best part. We're from Florida. For those of you that don't know us, it was supposed to be in the 50s at night. In somebody's dreams, it was. It got down into the 30s at night, and it was just very, very cold night. It was chilly when we got up there. Walked into the place, gathered the group. We learned a little bit about the property. Chris White did a wonderful job of introducing us all to the property with a little talk up front. But we're walking into the place, and I managed to get Chris on the phone, and we talked briefly as we're walking into the park. And Chris, if you want to go ahead and tell them kind of what you were feeling as
what happened to walking down to Evan. Yeah. Few comments first. All I knew about the place was it was a former amusement park, and that its name was Shawnee Lake. That was it. So I've got a hint that there's Indians there at some stage, and blah blah. I knew nothing about the place. So we get there, and the first thing that struck me was how loud and noisy it was. I couldn't believe how loud and noisy it was, with cars on a incredibly busy road nearby. And I was having a real job concentrating over this noise and the flash of headlamps from cars. And I'm sure Larry's team was having a real job as well with this noise.
Oh, I was going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, yeah.
Walking down towards Evan, I'm chatting to Larry on the telephone, the mobile phone link, and saying, "There's Ryan in the distance. Wave Evan. There's Evan in the distance. Wave Evan," and this sort of thing. As a little boy just runs up to Larry, probably 4 to 7 years old. He's in a cowboy costume with a black waistcoat and a cowboy hat, with a sheriff's badge in shiny metal on his chest, with the toy gun saying "bang bang," and then he just vanished. So I thought, oh, this is interesting, knowing no history of the place. And then we get down towards Evan. Sorry.
Both my boys are
It's okay. He remembers me because I'm the cooler one.
Exactly. As soon as I get down to Evan, then I just said to Larry, has somebody been shot in the head here? Because I had an appalling flash of bright white light and a terrible, terrible pain in the head, and then darkness. Is everyone still there?
Yeah, we're all here.
Oh, I've just lost connection for some reason. Okay.
No, we hear fine.
And I, as I said, I was just asking Larry if anybody had been shot in the head there, but I don't know. Anyway, that's what I got on this first walk down.
And that's how it began. Overall, I got to tell you, it was, we got some interesting stuff, and we're going to go over it in just a couple minutes here. But it wasn't one of the most active places we saw, and I don't want to give the impression that it's not an active place. It just wasn't. They just weren't playing that night. And
they weren't biting, were they?
They weren't biting. And you know as well as I always say, paranormal investigations like fishing. Sometimes they're biting, sometimes they're not. And if you go by the belief that we are working with the spirits, the souls, however you want to put it, of those that have passed before us, they retain the personalities of before, and they don't come out just because we say so.
No.
And And that's just the way it is. And this night we got some interesting stuff, but it was quiet. But this was an interesting start, Chris, and you were really descriptive on how the pain that you felt as we walked.
The pain was indescribable.
Yeah,
it literally was like something went through my head.
Mm-hmm. Now, the park had some interesting things in there. It still got an old Ferris wheel. It's got the old swing set that the young lady was killed on. You're going to see that in the video. There was, and I'll talk about this now. When we were cleaning up, Spanky and I were picking up some equipment around the Ferris wheel, and Spanky took this fantastic photograph. It's on our website, and it's of a lightning bolt or a big stream of light coming from the sky down behind. I'm sorry, in front of the Ferris wheel. Now here's the interesting, and then the moon was behind the Ferris wheel. Now here's the interesting part of this, and Spanky, if you're out there right now, and I get this, you want me to add something to it, please let me know. I'm looking at the chats now, but the sky was clear that night. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Yet at the very top of this lightning, this piece of light, the stream of light, was a cone, a black cone. Ike's looked at it. I sent it to him, and he took a look at it. He couldn't explain it. Nobody that's in the photography business I looked at could explain it. And it's just really interesting. So take a look at that photograph. It's on our website. Couldn't explain that, and that was later at night. But going on with the show a little bit here, I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that happened. When we first got there, we did an offering at the site of the Indian Burial Ground, and that's really up in the front part of the park. And we did a kind of a prayer, a thank you for allowing us to be there. We did an offering of tobacco because I believe you told me that that's what you were getting.
You have to do it. Yes, that's what I got told you had to do.
So we did an offering. We played some Indian music. Now I've got to throw something out here, and I don't even think you know this, Chris, but Chad Talley, I mentioned him a few minutes ago. He runs Space Coast Paranormal in Melbourne, just in north of us. He'd been there and did a visit with some of his folks not too long ago. Well, at the site where we did the offering, we saw a red inhaler, like somebody would use that had
asthma.
Asthma. Thank you. And we all commented, Spanky, guys, you remember that? We saw the inhaler. Well, it turns out it was Chad's. He told me about it later, and we wondered who it was, and it was certainly Chad's. Spanky just got on here. The picture I was telling you about with this was one of 3 pictures, and not all the pictures had the light. There were 3 pictures, only one had the stream of light. So I wanted to put that in the thanks, Spank, for remembering that. So we went on from there. After doing the offering, and it got cold. Oh my God, it got cold that night. And I want to really give a shout out to both Spanky and Spanky, Tina, and Tom and Jill, because they brought motorhomes. The rest of us were in tents. Okay?
And it really was intense that night.
Well, let me tell you something. We abandoned the tents, and some of us went into Jill and Tom's trailer. Some of us went into Spanky and Tina's trailer, and we were warm that night. But it was cold. But the first place that we went, Team 1, and you'll see it on the video, is we went to the area where the Ferris wheel was, and you'll see Evan begin to use the dowsing rods. Now, Evan is superior when it comes to using these rods. He's kind of the one that made me the real believer that they work because of how he does it. And normally what we do is yes answers, no answers. If your answer is yes, you cross. The answer is no, they go away. Split apart, I should say. We'll also ask them, can you point to where you're at? And Evan did all this in that first part. And it was a really good start because we got very definitive evidence, or I should say information, that something was there because the rods moved. And a lot of folks will say, oh, they're moving their hands or they're doing this. The only thing I can tell you is we were there, and I know that this didn't happen. I know that this was all very natural. So it was really fascinating. So that's in the very first part of the video. I don't know if any of you out there has already seen it and you'd like to comment on it. I'd sure like to hear from you. Now, Chris, your take on it?
Yeah, that was interesting because when he was doing that, and after reviewing the evidence, because I didn't see it at the time, just reviewing, it's very obvious to me that a male, 20s, 30s, Native American walks straight up to him, sits about 2 or 3 feet in front of Evan, just looks at him. Can't remember any more details than that because the notes are old now. And then after, he doesn't seem to do anything. He was just looking at Evan. I don't think he was looking at the rods. He wasn't moving the rods. He was just there. And then after a few minutes, he just got up and walked off again. And that seemed to be the whole thing about the site. Pete, they were just interested in you.
Well, and you'll see later on in the video, we were using a spirit box, and we do a thing called active listening. I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but we actually got a bunch of names, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But I'm looking at the video now and watching the rods move for Evan, and they actually provided some very, very interesting information. And at one point, my camera even sort of blacked out a little bit. Now, not video, but audio died out for some unknown reason. We got a lot of that night. We got a lot of funky things with the electronics. It would be fine, and it would fade out, then it would come back. So that was kind of interesting. Hey, Debbie Enzi's joined us. Good to see you, Debbie. Been seeing you on Facebook a little bit, but I'm glad to see you back on the show. I hope you're keeping Ike in line there. So that was really a good start. Now, while we were doing that, and we're going to go to where the Team 2, which was Spanky and his crew, were in just a few minutes. But once again, as you're looking at Evan doing the dowsing rods in the first part of the video, I think you'll agree. You'll watch his hands. I'm looking at it right now, and they're moving on his command or in his request, and it was pretty darned interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, dowsing rods have been used for millennium, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I've had people on my tours that were well diggers, and they say they still use them. It's all about energy and the use of that energy.
If I can just yes, cut in 1 second,
please.
Judith's brother did a geology course at one of the universities in England, and they were actually teaching dowsing.
Really?
Yep, dowsing. So, and he's very good at it as well. So.
What is their take on it? What is
I've honestly no idea, because until I saw your team using them, I was very poo-pooing the idea. Mm-hmm. As you know, I've got a book on dowsing and church archaeology and where it's been used in archaeology, etc. I've never really given much credence to it because I'm from the other side, and I've got to say I'm getting interested now. Too late, of course, but I'm getting interested now.
I think the dowsing rods are great because there's no. I mean, and that's why we videotape them very carefully. Ike does the same thing when he uses them on his investigations. You can videotape those hands being still and not moving. You can't see movement back and forth with the hands, and those rods moving. It's pretty spectacular. We've had some really incredible evidence that we've gained. I remember one time, Evan, we were on the beach here in Vero where we had a lot of Spanish ships go down in 1715. And Evan was asking questions. The dowsing rods were responding, but so was the K2 and the Mel meters were also responding at the same time. Now, Sherry just jumped on here, Chris, about the book you mentioned, The Dowsing in the Church.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioned to me once before. Sherry said she'd like to get that book.
I've already told you. Next time you come over, it's yours. Take it back with you.
Sherry, I'll be bringing it back next time I go. So
I will be back in a minute. We've got a light. Come on, 1 second.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move right along here. I'm just going to go on. After Evan does the dowsing rods, there were some things that came up that Dan Clarkson was with us with his daughter Erin, and the rods indicated that they pointed at Erin, so Erin started asking some questions. I moved away as they started to talk, and the K2 meter we had on this picnic table with a bunch of stuffed animals. There was nothing electric in there or anything, just started going nuts. Now, K2s can be a little bit finicky, in fact, and they may go off on a whole lot of different things. But this one was totally quiet, started going off, and then stopped almost as quickly. To me, that's indicative of at least some sort of piece of energy coming through. And that happened there, but you'll see that on the video also. Now, fortunately, I've got a really good camera that's got good night vision, so that's how a lot of that was picked up. So that was once again, we're early in the investigation. It's not too god awful cold yet, and it was pretty interesting. It gave us a lot of hope of what the night was going to provide for us. The next scene right here, let's see. I'm going to go back just a little bit. There's a bus on the property. This bus was inhabited by a relative of Mr. White's. And that's all I'll really say on that one. And the individual in there passed away. And there's been a lot of indications of activity on this bus. It was converted into basically a motorhome. Spanky, the next part of the video, Spanky is in there once again using dowsing rods. Spanky, Mike Maxwell, is also very, very good with the rods. And he was getting some very, very amazing reactions to it. Now, on there also, they caught an orb, and this is the second orb you'll see on the video. I'm not a big orb guy, folks. I'm just going to be honest with you, and it's probably one of the disagreements in the field. Is an orb energy of a past spirit, or is it dust? I'm of the dust moisture bug side for 95% of the time. I'll let you look at the orb and there's two orbs. There's one just before that in the earlier part of the video. I'd love to hear your take on it. Are those orbs dust, or are they something a little bit more paranormal? And I'm open for discussion.
It always comes down to, was it taken with flash?
There was no flash on this.
That's more interesting.
It was videoed. The orb was videoed.
Far more
moving.
interesting. I mean, yeah, you can still get dust, but if you haven't got flash, it is far more interesting.
Any thoughts out there? Any of you guys got thoughts on orbs? I'd love to bring it up right now if you do. I'm just not a big orb guy. I think most of the time they're explainable.
While you're in the area of the bus, that's another place where I got something.
Okay.
And for some reason, I got a headache in the bus, not the blinding headache of earlier on, but I got just a wearing headache, just kept coming on and on and on. And as soon as I whizzed through this thing, it went. And there was the feeling of being very, very unwelcome in there. Somebody was sort of saying, "This is my bus, and you're not welcome in here." And it was definitely male.
Yeah,
definitely male. Didn't like people in his bus for some reason.
And
then people started taking flash photographs, and I just whizzed through because otherwise I'm going to get a migraine. Yeah,
with Chris does, and I've known some other folks with this gift. Bright lights don't help them at all, and especially excuse me, the beer's getting to me. Those bright lights can actually, yeah, I'm a lightweight, can knock some folks off track. So interesting you mentioned that, Chris, because later on, not in this session with Spanky, but I was in there with my team, and Evan was with me. It was just Evan and I, and we're sitting there and we're doing a EVP. We got the spirit box going. Evan just looks at me and says, "We got to leave now."
Yep.
Evan literally felt something coming from the back rushing us.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Now, Evan, especially, at this point in his life, is very cautious of anything he says. He's really not, he's not quick to say, "I see or feel anything." But this caught him by surprise. It says, "Dad, we got to leave now." And it's because it came from the back of the bus and rushed us. Now, I will tell you this, that like I said, somebody did pass in that bus. And there's a photograph taken by another group of folks that went through there, and a young boy, I think it was a young boy, was sitting in the driver's seat of the bus, and the picture was taken from the outside in, and another face appeared right behind his shoulder. Is that the person that's in there? He was a male. I will tell you that. So your feeling was kind of interesting in that respect, and it did fit in with the.
It's rather like trying to feel your way through a smoky pair of glasses. In that I'm getting 10% of what's there. It's very difficult.
See, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but that's a misconception that a lot of people have of folks with your gift, that you automatically can see everything clearly.
No.
The reality is you see bits and pieces, and everybody sees something a little different. Is that kind of accurate?
There's so many reasons behind this. Ability is one thing. Some people are better at seeing, some people are better at hearing, some people are better at feeling. And then you've got vibration. Everything comes down to energy. At the end result, everything is energy. And some people are up in the 92 hertz and some people are down in the 48 hertz. That's where they're looking for communication.
Yeah.
And some will be picking up on Fred Bloggs down at 48 and some will be picking up on Flo Smith at 92. They're both right. It's just different energy levels.
And that's something that folks just, I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think it's studied enough. Frequency and vibration is so important in our field. And that's why I think ITC, Instrumental Trans Communication, EVPs are part of that, are going to be where we get our big breakthrough. I strongly believe that.
It's got to be.
So,
unless of course you take the word of mediums, but you can't trust mediums, as I've heard. So,
okay, Spanky just chimed in. It was a worker that lived on the bus. I thought it was a relative of his also, because I know that you got somebody indicating that they were a relative of his on the bus. Do you recall that? If you can chime in there, I would appreciate it, because I want to make sure I get that right. I'm looking at your ugly mug on the my video right now, Spanky, by the way. But you're doing a superb job.
Nice.
Oh,
you leave that man alone.
Nice guy.
I'm sticking up for Spanky. He's my mate, is Spanky.
But excellent. That's an excellent part of the video with Spanky working with the rods there. So yes, and a relative. That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Spanky. So moving right along here. This is, hold on here. What I'm trying to do, folks, is follow this video. So if you like how we're doing this, please let me know, because we're experimenting tonight to give you the best opportunity to understand what it was we were doing and what we were getting.
Please believe the other investigations are a hell of a lot more interesting.
Oh, this one wasn't bad. I mean,
okay, now you wait till you hear about B.
Oh, B, yes, B is, yeah, B was interesting. Well, the next part. The next part of the video is Team 1. That's myself, Dan, and Aaron, and Evan. We're at the grave site of the Clay children. Now, going back a little bit here, these were 3 children that died at the hands of Native Americans that were unhappy with the Clays, and that's a whole different subject. But the fact is that it did occur. Now, as we were walking to this grave site, there was actually 2 of the kids that are on the headstone there, Tabitha and Bartley. Ezekiel was the young man that was captured and taken away by the Native Americans, and he was later burned at the stake, actually, probably a couple hundred miles from there, across the West Virginia line into Ohio. They brought him back. He was buried there, but his name was never put on the gravestone. So there's actually 3 kids buried in this spot on the property. As we were walking back to that part, Evan, once again, he's not prone to get to saying stuff just to say it. You got to really prod him. But he was really uptight and nervous. He said, "Dad, we are being followed. We're being followed by a group. And I don't know who they are, but I believe they're to be Native Americans." And as we got to the gravesite, and you'll see in the video, Evan was using the dowsing rods to make a contact, and he did. They even told us, we asked them which way we should leave, and I said that way, and they actually told us to go right behind me, out the back way. But during this time also, while I'm concentrating on Evan and filming that, Dan is standing there with his thermal camera, and he's hearing movement and noises behind me. Now, I hear him say something to Aaron while we're doing it. But we finish up, and we agree to go ahead and leave. And as we do, Dan says, "Yeah, well, let me tell you what else happened. There was movement back there," and I naturally said, "Was it an animal?" That would be the natural thing, because it's wooded out there. And he said, "I took my thermal, and there's nothing out there with any heat to it." So interesting. Is it conclusive? No, but just an interesting bit of information that led us to believe that there was something moving around out in that area. Now, go ahead.
Now, while Evan was doing this in the when he was doing his dowsing rods in this session around the gravesite.
Right.
There were lots of children running around. Very obvious. Were they native kids? I don't know. I couldn't see clear enough. They were just small.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were doing is they were running up and they were touching him with a finger, touching Evan with a finger, and then running away and then giggling. And there must have been half a dozen to a dozen. I couldn't tell you exactly how many, and they were almost daring each other to do it. You go and do it. And they were running up, touching him and running away as though it was a big game. And that's what was going on.
And I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but Evan is really good with kids, and kids are, they do come to him. He taught karate, younger kids karate for a number of years. So I'm not wholly surprised with hearing that at all. Now I got to tell you something else, folks, about this point. If you go to Shawnee Lake, which is a great place, highly recommend it. You need to understand one thing: it's noisy as all hell.
It is noisy.
You're going to hear it in the video, cars back and forth, and you're going to wonder how many cars are in this very rural area, because you're going to be very surprised. We actually had one point, and Spanky and Dan, if you're on, you may remember this. We had a group of cars that looked like they parked. It was just off the property, back there partying.
Yeah,
so there was.
And they were going past and they're going beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't believe how noisy it was for something that's supposed to be rural. It was incredibly noisy.
Yeah. So that really was, I won't say it was a negative, because you can't help that, but it did inhibit doing EVP sessions and whatnot, because you couldn't get past the noise. And it went late into the night, past midnight. There was all kinds of traffic out there. It kind of died down after midnight, but it was still very, very, very noisy at that point. But we beat a hasty retreat because they made it clear that we needed to leave. Now, the editing of the video, and Tom Randazzo did a terrific job. My compliments to you, Tom. But because he had to make it compact enough so that it was watchable, it took away some of the stuff not the stuff that happened, but it did take away some of the context. And we really got the nod to get the hell out of there, and that's what we did. And that's when Dan told us about the noise behind him, which he clearly said did not come up on his thermal at all. So now, moving past that, I'm looking here. We ended up back. Let me go here.
Is this where you went to the swings?
This is where we went back to the swings, and this is kind of interesting here, because we started getting we were doing active listening there. Now, for those folks and that's the term we use, you may use a different term for it, but that's where we take a spirit box. In this particular case, I don't remember if we were using the SP 11 or 7. I don't remember which one off the top of my head right now, but we put earphones on. The person hooked up to the spirit box puts earphones on and secludes themselves, a way they can't hear the questions. And then we start asking questions, and the person with the headphones on merely shouts out what they hear. In this particular case, we were back at the swings. Is there anybody here with us? Can you tell us their names? The name Virginia, Eddie, and I want to say Fred, I believe you'll hear it on the video, came up when we asked for names. That was quite interesting. And then suddenly I was carrying my meter, which was pretty quiet. There was no activity, and suddenly shot up to 2.7 milligauss.
Yeah, I've got that on mine. Yeah.
Which was a pretty hefty little jump there, and then it was gone. Explainable, possibly, I suppose. But when you combine the fact that we were getting names, can you tell us your name? Virginia, Eddie, Fred. Now, these swings are the same ones the little girl was killed. Okay. Her name was not.
Can I come in on that one?
You may. As I take a drink.
Absolutely. In the area of the swings, there was an awful lot of anger. That's overriding emotion, an awful lot of anger. However, as soon as you got that 2.7, or roughly at the same time, there was a kid sitting on the swing. And the swing was just vaguely moving. Yeah. And I think it was a little girl, but I can't be sure because it was really vague, because there was a lot of noise from cars and there was a lot of lights and it's very hard to concentrate. But for just 5 seconds, it was like there was a little girl on that swing just sitting there looking at you. You know, like the way that you just put your legs on the ground and just rock backwards and forwards.
Sure.
Just like that.
Yeah.
She went.
And now, we did not get this on video, but Chris White was telling us that many people have gotten the swing moving suddenly. Now, it was dead that night. There was no air moving at all. God, it was cold. Oh my God. For us Florida folks, it was cold. Even us transplanted folks like Tom and Jill from up north, you guys were even cold.
Yeah.
Sherry Cox put on
For
here
us-
too.
For us from
Active
County
listening-
Durham, we'd be in T-shirts.
You'd be in T-shirts. Yeah, we polar bears up there. Sherry brings up a good point. Active listening is also called the Estes method, after where it was used in Estes Park, Colorado, I believe, to use that technique. That's a very common technique that we use, and once again have found it to be incredibly effective. And it gives us some parameters too, some checks and balances on interesting information.
It's been very. I mean, I'm not. It's new to me. It takes me an awful long while to get used to something. I'm very conservative in my habits and opinions. I like lots and lots of repeats to get used to the idea. On the investigations we've done where you've had this going on, there have been some remarkable hits.
Mm-hmm.
Really remarkable, that are just sort of wow. And that's keep doing it because it's interesting.
Well, and I was talking to Rob Walczak from Ghost Gear. He is going to work on pieces of equipment that'll make that type of thing even easier to do. So I'm looking forward to.
He needs to be able to slow it down. That's the one thing that I cannot do. I cannot slow that signal down. Spirit voices come through fast. Always
very fast. Yeah, and you got to be careful with spirit boxes too, because if you're there are some out there that can weed out radio signals, but sometimes, like with the PS7, PSBL7 in particular, you can get radio stations, and you got to be on top of it to make sure you're not hearing radio voices.
I also worry about the people who are hearing what they want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, is there anyone here? Blah 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 blah. Oh, that's Fred. That's my grandfather Fred. And you slow it down later and you hear it, and it's saying "sod off."
But that's
and it goes on like this. How you feeling, Uncle Fred? I told you to sod off. Oh, he's saying he feels well. They hear what they want to hear.
Yeah, and that's one reason the Estes method, the active listening method, is so good, because you've got somebody else that's not hearing the questions, just blurting out answers.
But you've also got them listening on headphones rather than over this speaker thing, which is absolutely useless. You've got to hear through headphones.
Absolutely. Now, I've just been chastised by Jill that says they've lived in Florida for 33 years. I'm sorry, Jill. Tom also served our community 25 years with the sheriff's office in St. Lucie County, so they've been here for a long time. So I stand corrected, Jill. You're a Floridian for all intents and purposes, so I apologize for that.
Can I be an honorary Floridian?
Yes, it is so done. You're an honorary Floridian.
Thank you very much.
The next part of the video right here.
Do I get a free holiday now?
The next part of the video is one that's created a little bit of controversy within our own group. Spanky's group, Team 2, was at the ticket booth, this ticket booth that still remains from the old days on the property. And there's a pinwheel that's stuck into the wall there. If you've seen the video, folks, and I hope that you do, you'll see it. They got some interesting things there with the K2 meter and the rods. There was a beeping going off at the time. They thought it was something setting the REM pod off, but it was actually a temperature gauge. We later determined.
Can I interject on that one?
Yes, you may.
There was someone small, child. I think it was a girl. I couldn't be sure. It could be a boy. As I said, it's very hard to tell. But they were stretching on tiptoes and reaching right up with a finger to touch the REM pod.
Okay, and that's a very, very the REM pod. Okay, what about the pinwheel? I don't recall you mentioning the pinwheel.
No,
okay.
I got nothing from the pinwheel, and like you about that. I've got reservations.
Yeah, and you know, I want to make this really clear. And Jill just told me that Tom served 30 years with St. Lucie County, so I want to make sure we give him the proper.
I'm not
thank
coming
yous.
over there. There's too many police.
Yeah, well, we won't go there. Anyway, they got a lot of interesting information there, but the pinwheel has been alleged to have moved and spun in the winter now, but in the outside when there's no wind. Now, I will grant you there was no wind that night. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm seeing the pinwheel go back and forth. That wasn't conclusive to me. Now, the team that was there, Spanky and Tina and Jill and Tom, felt that it was. And that's one of the things that we have in our business is we all see and feel things differently. And I want to make sure that you understand that while I am watching the video, I wasn't there. When I see the video, I'm not overly impressed with it, but those guys were there, and they were based upon what they were experiencing. That's something that is really missed in our business. We're so quick to poo-poo what other people do, and I am so against armchair quarterbacking.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely. So I don't want to.
What we can't show on the video is what they're feeling.
Exactly. And they all felt the energy that was there. So while you may look at it and say, there's nothing there, I implore you to understand that the teams that's there, they're professionals. These guys are sharp. They would not be a member of my group if they weren't. They felt it and they saw it. So there's something occurred there. Looking at the video, and they got I think Jill a little bit up to, okay, there was no wind at all, Jill says at the pinwheel. No one was in the ticket booth, so no vibrations could have caused it. So there, and I've got to see it their way. I was not there. But that's what happens a lot of times when we see these videos. Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. That didn't happen. Well, you weren't there, folks. You didn't feel it. You didn't see it.
All the time. Like people say, oh, that's anecdotal evidence. And I'll just reply, were you there?
Exactly. And that's one thing I want to remember. So as you watch,
you haven't got a word to say if you weren't there.
Is that a crucifix?
No.
What is that?
That's a bottle opener.
I thought so. Okay, all right.
Me and a crucifix, wash your mouth out. Can I, while I've got 5 seconds, can I also say, while they were in this area watching the pinwheel going around, they were being watched from the trees or the long grass behind by American natives.
Okay.
That is the one area that I really, they were being scrutinized. What on earth are you doing here?
That's interesting. I'm going to tell a little story, and I hope you don't mind, Tommy, but I'm going to tell you your story in just in a few minutes that kind of goes along that line. But take a look at that when you get a chance to watch the video, folks. Take a look at that part and let me know what you think. It was interesting to say the least. Now, Team 2 also went out to the grave site. They did it after we did, and they got some interesting things there. I'm just going to kind of jump through that, but they actually got on their spirit box who's here, and I heard it clearly. This I did hear, Clay, the family Clay, and it came across the spirit box. Now, the chances of the name Clay coming across their spirit box and it being a radio station at that point, pretty nominal, you know. So take a look at that.
Even if it comes through as a radio signal, it can be a synchronicity.
Excuse me. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Stop it. You're drinking too much.
I am.
But it can be a synchronicity.
Synchronicity is another thing that, folks, we do not acknowledge enough. And there's some folks out there that have done a lot of work on synchronicity, and I think it's a huge part of what we do. But take a look at that. The last thing on the video, and the video, you got to understand, it was 22 minutes and 52 minutes long. Again, thank you, Tom, for taking hours and hours of video from 3 different cameras and putting it together. You did an outstanding job. I particularly liked the beginning. You were very colorful in that. Ryan, you still there, Ryan? Are you sleeping?
No, I'm here.
Ryan's sleep.
You
there?
Yes, I'm here.
What'd you think of the beginning of the video, Ryan? I just woke him up. I just woke him up.
No, you didn't wake me up. Trust me, I'm drowning
Ryan
in papers.
is studying for
It's
finals,
all that
folks.
whiskey, isn't it? It's all that whiskey. That's what's done it.
No.
Ryan, just to brag about my son Ryan for a second, he's a graduate of the University of Florida this last spring. He went back to school to become a respiratory therapist, and he's in a very intensive program right now, so he's studying for finals. So I don't want to pick on him too much.
How he's doing this and studying at the same time, I don't know, but thank you, Ryan.
That's why I'm not able to answer questions.
But what'd you think of the beginning of this video? Just to give Tom Randazzo a shout out here.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You did too. You commented on me before. Now you made me look bad.
Oh, I liked it.
I thought it was terrific.
I saw the
intro. It's not my style, but I liked it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so now that I've stuck my foot in my mouth, let's go. The very last part of the video was probably, to me personally, was the most significant part of the entire investigation. We were calling it quits. It was getting late. Man, were we cold. We went back to the site where the center site of the graveyard, the Native American graveyard. This is where they have a totem there and where people give their offerings. It's where you saw us at the beginning. So we're again doing a little bit of work there. I'd taken a millimeter, and if you look at the video right behind me, there's a hay bale. I'd taken a millimeter and put it on top of the hay bale.
Hay bale.
Have some more beer.
How much is
have
how
some
much
more beer, Larry?
Had?
Not much.
God,
but on top of the hay bale was flat. I'd taken a millimeter and put it on there. Now, Tom, God bless you, Tom, had it right on the camera at first, but then he moved slightly left, so you couldn't see the blinking light of the millimeter anymore. Well, during that time, you turn around and you see me suddenly look. Something not, and it had been sitting on that hay bale for, what, 5 minutes at that point? Maybe a little bit longer. No problem at all. Once again, no wind at all. It was dead still. The thing flies off the top of the hay bale. And you'll see me turn around and look at it. I wish we had caught it, but that's the way it happens sometimes. And there it is on the ground. To me, that was very significant because that millimeter was securely placed on there. I was using it to just detect energy in the area. And suddenly, boom, it got knocked off. For me personally, that was the highlight, because I could not explain that. I could not debunk that in any way, shape, or form. So take a look at that. We've also got some other things on there that the guys picked up of interest. Now, I want to go really quick to the end. It was the next day. We're getting ready to go. And Tom, this I give to you. He was walking. There's a stream that goes through the property. And Tom saw a Native American. And if you're on there, Tom or Jill, if he's with you there, I'm looking at the comments now, saw a Native American standing there watching him on the other bank, on the other side. And that's where you were talking earlier about them watching them. If I'm not mistaken, Tom, and please jump on here and share this with us, that's what he was doing, was watching you, if I have that correct in my memory. So that was how we ended it. With that little bit of information right there. Could it have been busier? Oh, we always like it to be busier, but we, as, I don't want to say professionals, but experienced paranormal investigators, truly realize you don't always get things moving and apparitions appearing in every investigation. I want to thank Chris White for spending time with us out there, telling us about the property, allowing us on the property. He couldn't control the weather, even though it was out awful darn cold. But it was a great night. We really enjoyed it. We got some good information. We had it was just a great night. And Tom is there. So Jill, did I get that story right? Ask Tom if I got that story right, as he remembers it. Yes, that's correct. She says. So very, very interesting night. That was the first time we had actually involved you in one of our investigations. The team didn't even know I was doing that, by the way, which is good. We want to keep that bit of separation in there. I think it's good that we conduct ourselves that way, and I can hear what you're saying. They don't know, and then it's great to
what
share
I've insisted on. That's one of the conditions of doing it. That
Yep.
there is no way that they can know what I'm saying. So all of a sudden, I'll say, "Oh, there's someone at the door," and then everyone's saying, "Oh, I feel something at the door, and I feel something's touched my hair, and there's a draft coming from the door," or they haven't got a clue what I'm saying.
And well, most people don't ever have a clue what you're saying.
Well,
Sorry,
this is true.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. At any rate,
true.
and that's what you're going to see, folks, in some of our future shows. We've actually going to be able to get Chris. We've recorded him on Skype, and we're going to be able to show you those comparisons with what some of our team members are experiencing. So we've got some really
edited.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, it would be great to put the whole thing out to you folks, but nobody's got the time to watch.
I tell you, it gets fruity.
Yeah, well, yeah. But also, nobody's got the time to watch 2 hours of video.
No,
especially, let's face it, paranormal investigations are like police stakeouts. Hours and hours of boredom and 30 seconds of adrenaline pumping excitement. So that's the way that is. So that's our visit to Shawnee Lake Abandoned Haunted Amusement Park. We had a great time. Once again, thank you to Chris White for allowing us out there. He was a great host, and I would recommend anybody go out there, take a look at it. It certainly is an interesting experience. We enjoyed it. Interested in your thoughts and comments on tonight's show, the format, how we're going to try and do this. We're going to get better at it as we go, obviously. But I'd sure like to hear what you guys think about it. And if you have any questions or thoughts on the video, I hope you watch it. Let us know and tell us how we can make this experience, sharing our experiences with you, a little bit better. Chris, any final thoughts?
Yeah, spiritual takeaway for this episode.
Take it.
Don't say use my energy.
Thank you for bringing that up. This is something we've gotten in the habit of, and you're going to see this on the video, guys. You guys are going to watch this, and you're going to say, "Oh, I don't think I would have done that, or I would have done it differently." And you may be right. There may be a reason we did it, and you don't know it. But what you just brought up, Chris, is a good point, and I really want everybody to focus on this. When you give permission,
that's the thing.
To enter.
Now, the thing is, spirits will use energy. Full stop. They will just use it. You do not have to say, take it. They will just use it. But what you're doing is you're saying, use my energy. You're giving permission, and you're opening a door. And that door means something you cannot see, you cannot feel, you cannot touch, and you cannot stop, has got permission to do what the damn hell they want.
And that's one reason why you'll see us after every investigation. We always say, you cannot come with us. You do not have permission to leave with us. You must stay here. Do not give permission. And hey, guilty as charged. And sometimes we forget. Folks don't.
Everybody does. I mean, it's so easy to say because you see it on every television program.
Yeah. Well, for those, and I know you guys, everybody that's on here right now, I'm looking at everybody that's watching. You guys know that this is not a game. We're searching for information. We are searching for answers, but it's a dangerous game. And if we allow ourselves to be opened, bad things can happen. So let's be careful out there, as Sergeant Esterhaus used to say on Hill Street Blues.
Exactly.
Yeah,
always treat everything seriously and not as a game. And always like if you're walking down the streets of LA, you walk on guard. You don't just sort of stroll around going.
Slam on LA, pal? I don't slam Durham. You
can't. It's beautiful. You can walk around Durham at 3 a.m. and nobody will bother you.
Yeah, I'm just teasing. But folks, thanks.
You wait till you see it.
Yeah, I've got to get up there. Chris and I spent our time in York, so I got to get up there to Durham. But I appreciate everybody watching tonight. As we're looking forward to this new format, we're looking forward to being back on the air with you. We hope you'll join us again. Please, if you haven't, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Come join us again. Be part of this forum. I mean, we're asking a whole lot of questions out here and telling you a whole lot of things, but we want to hear from you too. And this has got to be a forum for all of us in the field to share and just get better at it. So join us for next time. We'll be back in a couple weeks. The next one's going to be very good. It's I won't tell you where it's at, but I think you're going to enjoy the video. And
you
Tom,
better tell me where we're going.
No, I don't tell you squat.
Oh,
man, all right?
You're not going to tell me squat. Okay, fine.
All right. With that, folks, have a good night. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you next time. And until we meet again, be careful out there. We'll see you on the other side. Have a good night.